I think one of the biggest lies we have been sold about homeschooling is that it needs to look like school at home. And even if you think that you have not recreated school at home, stick with me, because I think that there are still a few beliefs or maybe even systems that you have subconsciously implemented into your homeschool routine that you may not even be aware of. And the sad thing about this all is I think that so many children end up hating homeschooling before they've even had a chance to love learning. Hi, I'm Marissa. I am a Christian homeschooling mum to 6, and I have been homeschooling for nearly 6 years now. One thing I have learned over the past nearly 6 years is that when we try to recreate school at home, the more resistance we are going to get from our children and the more miserable our lives end up being. My goal with this video is to help reframe some limiting beliefs we may be holding that are making homeschool harder than it needs to be, and eventually establish a homeschool rhythm that brings joy and fun into our homeschool again. Also, I'd love to know in the comments what has been the hardest part of homeschooling so far. Even if you haven't started yet, what is feeling difficult right now? Let me know in the comments below, because here's the thing, none of us wake up knowing how to homeschool. Most of us became homeschool mums after spending years in the public school system. So naturally, when we picture learning, we think of things like desks, planning, worksheets, timetables, and tests. We spent 13 years sitting in a classroom, and so naturally that is what we tend to recreate. We sit down at a desk, we look up curriculums, we then plan our timetable, we organize all of our subjects, and then we print off all of the worksheets before asking our children to sit down with us as we teach them what we think they should be learning that day. We assume that that is what learning looks like. But what's interesting yet not surprising to me is when I surveyed my audience over on Instagram and I asked them what was working in the homeschool and what wasn't, I heard a different story. You guys told me that worksheets weren't working, your child would not sit down. You love the curriculum, yet your child doesn't enjoy the work. It's really hard to finish lessons with the toddler interrupting. You don't know what to do with the baby. It's difficult to keep your children engaged and motivated. Finding a routine you can stick to is hard. Finding balance is hard. Trying to fit everything into your day is hard. Your children also tend to love to read. They love to play. They love hands-on learning. They also love connecting and being with you, and that they learn best through play. So if homeschool currently feels like a struggle and you're finding it difficult to establish a rhythm in your day, the problem is not your child, and it's also not you. The problem is simply expecting homeschool to function like a school. In a school setting, you need timetables, you need to stay on track throughout the day, dedicated lunch breaks, and a formula that you need to follow regardless if the child is understanding the concept or not. But then when we think of home, we think of flexibility, we think of real life and interruptions, people and play and conversations. Real life. Those are homeschool's strengths. Yet when we are a new homeschooler and even more established homeschoolers, we still fall into this belief that those sorts of things are what make homeschool hard, when really it doesn't have to be that way. I think one of the greatest switches us homeschoolers can make isn't anything practical, but simply changing our mindset around this. It's remembering that learning doesn't only happen at the table. It is happening all day, everywhere, at all times. And sometimes that learning does happen at the table, but often it happens when we least expect it. When they are helping to bake muffins, they are learning math, science, and how to follow instructions. When they are building a cubby house, they are learning engineering and problem solving and expanding their creativity. When they are arguing with siblings, they are learning empathy, negotiation, and conflict resolution. When they are helping learning fold the laundry. They are learning organization, responsibility, and life skills. When you are lying in bed together and reading a story, they are learning vocabulary, comprehension, and communication. Learning is not limited to a workbook. Learning is happening all around them all of the time, regardless of their age. And here's why I think this matters so much. If we only count learning when we are sitting down at the table doing dedicated lessons, we end up feeling like we are failing. We finish the day thinking we only did 20 minutes of proper school today before the child interrupted. But that's probably not true. When you take a step back and actually look at the day, there are so many learning opportunities and things that you did with your child and that your child did on their own that contributed to their overall education. You probably answered hundreds of questions. You probably counted things together. You probably read books together. Your child probably talked about colors and patterns and math skills and counting and subtraction, insects, the weather, everything that they talk about in science. You probably comforted them through big emotions. You probably taught them kindness and empathy and patience. All of those things are education too. So if your child won't sit down at the table, that doesn't automatically mean that they are behind. If worksheets and lessons end in tears, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are failing homeschool. If your child learns best through talking and building and exploring, that is not a problem to fix. It's something to embrace. It gives us the freedom to create something even better, something that works for our children and most importantly, works for the family overall. And if you're sitting there thinking, that sounds wonderful, but I still don't know what that kind of homeschool day should look like, I've put together a free gentle week of homeschool for your 3 to 6 year old that walks you through play-based hands-on learning. It's designed to take away that thought of what do I actually do? You can download it at the link in the description I have left below. Now, once parents let go of trying to recreate school at home, they end up making another mistake. They start trying to teach absolutely everything because they are worried that they aren't doing enough. And ironically, that is what ends up making homeschool feel so overwhelming again. So in the next video, we are going to talk about why you are probably teaching too much and what your child actually needs in the early years. Before you go, I'd love to know what has been the hardest part of homeschooling so far. And if you haven't started yet, what feels the most intimidating? Leave me a comment below. I read every single one. And if you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe, and click that bell notification so that you are notified when I upload the next video. You can download my free Gentle Week of Homeschool down in the description box below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.